What is going on, everybody? Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is John. Today I have for you a camera comparison. That's right, today we're going to be doing a camera comparison between the Apple iPhone SE 2020. I pre-ordered off of Apple's website for $399 at launch day, and the Google Pixel 4a, which I picked up at Best Buy for $349, and which I gave best in class for this price category for 2020. Before we get into the camera comparison, I do want to point out there are some intangibles with each camera, respectively, in regards to the software and the feature set. The first intangible is when it comes to viewing photos, you might just have a little bit more fun viewing them on the Pixel 4a due to its larger OLED display. The Apple iPhone SE 2020 is an LCD display. Secondly, I think where the Google Pixel 4a accelerates past the SE 2020 is this does have a night mode, which makes for really easy long exposure shots to get brighter, richer, more colorful photos in the nighttime. But where the Apple iPhone SE 2020 really makes up for that is this phone is water and dust resistant. So if you do want to take this to the beach or the pool and record a family outing, or maybe it's summertime and you're hanging out with your friends and you want to take pictures, this phone is definitely going to be better suited towards being in the outdoors and in the inclement weather conditions when compared to the Google Pixel 4a, which is not IP rated whatsoever. Both phones, where they do compare, is each do have stereo recording, each do have 4K, both can take panorama shots, both can take portrait shots, both can do time lapses, so on and so forth. What I really like about the user interface of the iPhone SE 2020 in regards to the camera is that it is easier to swipe between modes, say between video and portrait mode. It's just smooth, it's fast, it's fluid, it's accurate. Switching between modes on the Google Pixel 4a is a little bit cumbersome. It's a little bit gimmicky, going in between video and photo and portrait, for example. And last but not least, I want to talk about how easy it is to access the cameras. To get to the camera on the Pixel 4a, all you have to do is double click on the lock button to access the camera from sleep, as where with the iPhone SE you do have to wake it up and then swipe to the left to access the camera. I think if you're out there trying to get that perfect shot, you're definitely going to have a better opportunity at catching that with the Google Pixel 4a, maybe over the iPhone SE 2020, due to the fact that, like I said, you can double click the power lock button to get to the camera here, and here you have to wake the phone up first and then swipe to the left. Last but not least, I know I just said last but not least, but I think this one's actually pretty important. The iPhone SE does not have a built-in level. The Google Pixel 4a does, which makes it really easy to take good level shots. If you're maybe holding your phone a little bit cockeyed and you're wondering if the shot is level, there is a level feature on the Pixel 4a which makes taking photos just that much easier and that much better. You're kind of left guessing with the iPhone SE 2020. So now that I've laid out the intangibles of each camera, let's go ahead and see how they actually perform next to each other. Alright guys, what is going on? I'm so happy you are here for the camera comparison. I've been working on this camera comparison for a couple of days now. Yeah, it took me a week to do it, but you know, just between work and all, I finally found the time to get out and go to some interesting places and take some interesting photos, or at least photos that I think are interesting. On the left here is the Apple iPhone SE, and you can see if we just go up here to device model, you can see that it is the iPhone SE second generation, which is the 2020 model. And then on the right hand side, we can see that we've got under device model the Pixel 4a. So let's go ahead and take a look at the aperture value here. So for the Pixel 4a, we're looking at a 1.58 aperture. and we're looking at a 1.696 aperture for the iPhone SE. Now, one thing that I have wanted to point out for quite some time is that I think the color science behind each device is different. You know, a lot of camera gurus talk about, you know, the color science between Sony and Canon and what's the other camera brand? Nikon, for example. I think that is very much true with camera smartphones. And as camera smartphones become more prominent in photography, I think it is important that we point out the color science. And I think that ultimately has to do with things like the aperture value and the exposure time and the focal length here. So this is a picture of just some pottery. There's this really cool pottery shop down at our beach, Fort Myers Beach. As you can see on the iPhone SE, we're shooting at a 3.99 millimeter focal length, and we are shooting at a 4.38 millimeter focal length with the Pixel here. You can see that maybe I'm just holding the iPhone down a little bit, but I think for the most part, I'm getting more in the image with the Pixel 4a, which is kind of interesting because the focal length is zoomed in further than the focal length is on the SE 2020. So right off the bat, something is going on here that I just don't quite understand. And if you can answer that sort of conundrum in the comment section below, I do ask you to. But both photos look pretty color accurate. They look pretty good. This is kind of an interesting colored pot here. I think it does look a little bit brighter. It looks a little bit crispier and a little bit more focused on the Pixel 4a. Yeah, let's go ahead and check out this blue pot here. I think the colors look great on the Pixel 4a. I think they look more natural on the iPhone SE, but overall, I think you're going to get a more just balanced shot in terms of color on the Pixel 4a. But in terms of focusing and sharpness, maybe it was just me in this instance, but I think the iPhone SE 2020 looks a little bit better here. We're not going to go through each photo, but I do have some, you know, interesting video camera comparisons that I'm going to point out at the end of the video. You be the judge, guys. I picked up these phones and am reviewing them so that you guys can make a better informed decision when you go and buy them the next time that you do. I don't think you're really going to be disappointed in either of these cameras. And if you do decide to go with one over the other, you know, you're not really going to miss out on anything in particular. I do find myself adjusting from time to time when switching from the Pixel 4a to the iPhone SE 2020. For some reason, the iPhone SE 2020 is just a little bit more cropped in. As you can see, I'm just getting much more out of the photo with the Pixel 4a. And I'm not talking about color or sharpness. I'm talking about just amount of subject matter that's in the photo. And as you can see, it's just a little bit wider on the Pixel 4a when compared to the SE 2020. If you look, for example, at this rock here, it's pretty close to the edge of the frame on the SE 2020, as where on the Pixel 4a, there's plenty of room between the frame and that rock there, which, you know what, when you're editing in post, you know, being able to crop things in and have room to crop things in is actually more important than you think. So post-edit, I might actually give the upper hand to the Google Pixel 4a. Not to say that you can't just, you know, back up a smidge with the iPhone SE 2020, but yeah, I think if you're going to stand side by side and take a similar photo, you know, it's definitely something that I want to point out. So as you can see, this one actually is pretty telltale for the iPhone SE 2020. You do get some light bleeding in at the very top corner of the photo here. It looks a little bit washed out, as where on the Pixel 4a, it just looks really colorful and crisp, and just the photo looks like it's really well held together on the Pixel 4a, as where it just kind of looks like it's falling apart a little bit here with the iPhone SE 2020. Yeah, I did spend a lot of time at this pottery place. It's a pretty cool place, actually. They do a lot of work. Let me go ahead and actually just pull up the name of the pottery place that I went to. It's called Beach Pottery. They have thousands of pots, over an acre, as you can see from the sign. And they are located on Fort Myers Beach, or just before Fort Myers Beach. So if you're ever down in Southwest Florida, check this place out. The lady was very nice. She let me walk around and take tons of photos. Didn't ask any questions. Usually people are a little bit suspicious of what I'm doing, but not this lady. So you can see here a pretty nice panorama shot. You do get a lot of color and detail out of each. I think the photo is just a little bit brighter on the iPhone SE 2020. I think taking panorama shots on the SE 2020 is overall a better experience. Now, a lot of you may not be into taking panorama shots, but I certainly am. I think they're great. And I think the iPhone SE just does a phenomenal job. I think there's more detail in the sky up here than there is on the Pixel 4a. It just looks a little bit clumpy and a little bit pasty there. The sky is a little bit bluer on the SE. The shrubbery over here is a little bit greener. It just looks a little bit dark overall on the Pixel 4a. But I will say this, the Pixel 4a looks damn sharp. As we can just continue going through some of these photos here, you can just see how close in comparison they really are. They're really not that much different. You can definitely have, an opinion here, though, just based on what you like better, what is more suited towards your taste. And, I think both do a great job. Let's go ahead and maybe look at some of the more artsy shots that I took. Now, what's really cool about a photo like this is you could take it and put it in Lightroom or Photoshop and really turn it into a nice black and white. I'm not going to go ahead and demonstrate that now, but you can definitely do that with either of these phones. That's how good the cameras are. And, if you do find yourself coming across, an artsy subject matter, you can definitely take advantage of each camera module and each of the photo settings in either phone to make a really great looking photo in post-production. Though I will say that I think the iPhone SE 2020 is just a better post-photo editing experience. I like the filter options a little bit better because they're a little bit more classic, so to speak. They go by monochromatic and silver tone, as where you sort of get these sort of off-brand filters with the Google Pixel 4a. And being someone who is actually sort of interested in photography, I kind of find it annoying to have to guess, which one is monochromatic. It doesn't say specifically it's monochromatic. It's probably some goofy name like Lark, or you get what I'm saying, I think. Yeah, both just do a great job at color reproduction here. This is a really good example, actually, of the color science on each device. I think the blue absolutely pops on the iPhone SE 2020 in this circumstance. Usually the Pixel 4a is the more colorful, poppy photo of the two, but I think the SE 2020 just did a great job of picking up the light reflecting off this ceramic pot here. You can see the pores in this ceramic. It just looks terrific. It just looks bright and energetic. It just looks a little bit dull on the Pixel 4a. So this is that pottery place. It is on Fort Myers Beach there, as you can see. Now let's go ahead and take a look at some of the portrait photos you can take here. So this is at Parrot Key. This is a restaurant just before Fort Myers Beach. You've got the iPhone SE 2020 on the left and the Pixel 4a on the right. Both have a great bokeh effect. You get really delicious, phenomenal, smooth bokeh on the iPhone SE 2020. And look at how detailed my face is, and it just does a great job of placing that bokeh around my head. It looks a little bit blurry on the Pixel 4a. Look at my chin on the Pixel 4a compared to the SE 2020. it just looks a little bit blurry, a little bit out of focus on the Pixel 4a, and I just look ultimately better on the SE 2020. Now, I do want to just show you Parrot Key. This is such a beautiful restaurant. It's right on Matanzas Pass, which is sort of connected to Estero Bay, which is in Bonita Springs. We live in such a beautiful area here in Southwest Florida, and Salty Sam's is such a cool restaurant to go to. They have this beautiful marina where people park their boats, and you can go up to the restaurant and eat. And they have fish cleaning stations and things like that, so you can come in and clean your fish, and they'll probably even cook it for you. But just, you know, showing off how beautiful this place is, I decided to take a panorama from the second floor deck that they have, and it just looks a little bit dark on the Pixel 4a. It looks brighter. It looks more inviting on the iPhone SE 2020. Yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at some other photos here. Before I show you some more portrait photos, I will show you this quick video here demonstrating the audio capabilities. Both are capable of recording 4K stereo recording. This video, if you notice, I forgot to switch the Pixel 4a over to 4K, so I was shooting in 1080 HD. Both do a great job of video, but I just want to show you how good the stereo sound is on each device. So we'll start with the iPhone SE 2020 first. Let's go. Okay, so that was the SE 2020. Now let's see what the Pixel 4a sounds like with stereo recording. Okay, so not quite sure what that popping sound is. I did do two different recordings, so let's go ahead and see if that popping sound comes up on the Pixel 4a. Let's start with the SE 2020 first, though. Okay, let's see if that popping sound persists on the 4a. I don't think it will. I think that was maybe a car pulling into the parking lot. It was a gravel parking lot. Let's see what the Pixel 4a sounds like. Okay, so that was obviously much better. You know, I just want to go back here momentarily and point something out on the Pixel 4a in portrait mode. You do get two photo options when you shoot with the Pixel 4a. You get one with bokeh and you get one with a clear background, which I really like. So now that you've heard the video comparisons and the photo comparisons, let's go ahead and check out some other items that I've shot these past couple of days, starting with some of the night shots here. Some of these other videos and stuff here that I shot were in HD, and while the iPhone SE 2020 was in 4K, so they're really not a fair comparison. This, however, should be a no-brainer if you're deciding between which phone to buy. The iPhone SE 2020, like I said, you only have one camera mode. You do have a portrait mode, but there is no long exposure mode like you get on the Pixel 4a. You can tell that the Pixel 4a is a night shot by actually looking in the top right-hand corner here. you will see it does say .night.jpg, as where if we go back on the Pixel 4a, you get just a regular .mp.jpg. Yeah, both photos are similar. If shooting in regular mode, you just get a little bit darker coloring on the Pixel 4a. I think the photos look a little bit sharper. There's a little bit of light bleeding in from the bottom left-hand corner here on the iPhone SE. It just looks a little bit brown on the iPhone SE. It looks much more color accurate on the Pixel 4a. But then if you go into night mode on the Pixel 4a, it just completely blows the iPhone SE 2020 away. But don't get ahead of yourself too quick, because there are some instances where I think the iPhone SE 2020 really does a great job at night. And I think that that has to do with it being able to preserve colors a little bit more accurately and a little bit sort of more naturalistically as they are in reality. This is a great shot on the iPhone SE 2020. I think it shows all the shadows and the colors well. The night sky is dark. It's almost black on the iPhone SE 2020, and you can just see how beautiful that red woodwork is around this little pub here. This is in our neighborhood. We have this restaurant in our neighborhood. Let's go ahead and see what the night mode looks like on the Pixel 4a compared to the iPhone SE 2020. Definitely looks brighter and more colorful and more inviting on the Pixel 4a. But there is just something about the iPhone SE 2020 that I love, and that's that it just depicting everything as is, and it kind of is a little bit cooler looking, and I don't mean cooler as in color wise. I mean just in, I would rather post this left-sided picture to social media than this right-sided picture. I just think that it looks a little bit fake on the Pixel 4a, for lack of a better term. And yeah, let's go ahead and just see some other photos here. So this one's looking directly at this really cool little movie theater we have in our neighborhood. This is like our village center. It's like a community. And we have a movie theater there. And I'm looking directly at the bright lights that are up outside the movie theater, and as you can see, you do get a lot of bleeding here, a lot of streaking on the Pixel 4a that you just don't get on the iPhone SE 2020. It does a much better job of handling that light coming in than the Pixel 4a. And when I do go to night mode on the Pixel 4a, again, that streak of light is still there. Things do look a little bit more colorful and a little bit more poppy, but overall, I think the color and image is just better and more accurate on the iPhone SE 2020 in this particular instance. Now, one thing that I want to point out with the Google Pixel 4a, again, is that it is blurry compared to the iPhone SE 2020. But what's really cool about the Pixel 4a is you do get night mode with portrait mode on the Pixel 4a. Actually, let me rephrase that. Actually, no, because it does say night.jpg. So if you are in night mode on the Pixel 4a, you can switch around to the front-facing camera and take advantage of night mode. But you cannot take advantage of night mode in portrait mode. So what I did here was I just, went to the camera, switched it to the front-facing camera, and took a picture. It just looks blurry on the Pixel 4a. I look sharp on the iPhone SE 2020, but it does look grainy. There are all these little micro black spots in the picture that I just don't like on the iPhone SE 2020. And as you can see here, this is just a regular camera photo, no night capability on the Pixel 4a. And again, it looks better. It looks more color accurate actually than the iPhone SE 2020. It looks smooth and just inviting, but again, I'm just not focused well, which is kind of unfortunate with the Pixel 4a. I did try to get a focus shot. I took multiple shots, took this black and white shot. It just looks blurry and I'm not happy with it. honestly, I like the crispness of the iPhone SE 2020 here. Again, some more shots from this second floor here. You can see the focal length just being a little bit wider and easier to work with on the Pixel 4a. If you just look at this no parking sign here on the left-hand side of the photo, compared to the left-hand side on the iPhone SE 2020, it's sort of cropped out a little bit on the iPhone SE 2020, and that's disappointing to me, as where on the Pixel 4a it's nice and cropped in. But wow, look at how great and color accurate the colors are on the iPhone SE 2020 compared to the Pixel 4a here. But then if we go into night mode, it just looks phenomenal on the Pixel 4a. But again, you know, these are basically two different styles at this point. You know, you could either go for this really dramatic lit up picture on the Pixel 4a, or you could go with, you know, this sort of dark and ominous dark and ominous look on the iPhone SE 2020. So I want to show you some really cool shots from our pool area here, where the iPhone SE 2020 and the Pixel 4a really show their true colors here. Again, they look awesome on the iPhone SE. They don't look bad, but just wow. Look at them on the Pixel 4a. If the iPhone SE had some kind of long exposure mode, I have no doubt that it could generate a photo just like the Pixel 4a. But hey, these phones are the same price. If you're in this price range and you're looking for a good camera that you think that you're going to use most of the time at night, say if you go out at night a lot, you might want to check out the Pixel 4a, because its camera capabilities at nighttime are just astonishing. I mean, you're getting all these shadows here on the Pixel 4a. They're kind of blobs and hidden on the iPhone SE 2020. Like I said, it is kind of dark and ominous, and it really has this cool tone on the iPhone SE 2020, but it just looks stellar. This picture in particular looks stellar on the Pixel 4a, and you can see the blue from the pool showing up on the palm fronds here. Not so much so on the iPhone SE 2020. Let's go ahead and check out some other photos here. This photo I was really proud of. I wanted to show you guys just how cool of a photo this was. Look how dark and black it is around the edge of the pool on the iPhone SE 2020, which I actually like. I think it's a really cool look. But if you just switch over to night mode on the Pixel 4a, it just looks killer. I mean, look at the blue reflecting off the palm fronds here on the Pixel 4a in night mode compared to just regular old, you know, camera mode on the iPhone SE 2020. It looks terrific. It looks absolutely amazing on the Pixel 4a. We're not going to spend too much time on that here. Just capturing some moving water here. We have like a waterfall, a water feature here. This shot is really nice and crisp on the SE 2020, and this is another example, I think, of where you could argue that the color science of the SE 2020 and not having a night mode does look better than, say, having a different color science and having night mode like on the Pixel 4a. It looks really cool on the iPhone SE 2020. It just looks a little bit fake here on the Pixel 4a, but it does look nice and colorful once you go into night mode. I will say that. Just a shot of our pool here. Boom. This is some kind of video, I think. Yeah, let's see here. Let's see if that video comes out. Okay, these are going to be some night videos that I decided to give a try. Let's see what they look like here. Couple things I want to point out are, first and foremost, they are both in 4K, Both are stereo recordings, and I'm going to have to go ahead and give this obvious dub to the iPhone SE 2020. Even though the image is brighter on the Pixel 4a, it just does not look sharp at all. Also, I don't think the audio quality is as good as the iPhone SE 2020. Yeah, it's black, it's dark on the iPhone SE 2020, but it does look extremely crisp. And like I said, I think that stereo recording is just a little bit superior on the iPhone SE 2020. This picture is a cool one. Again, you'll get to see that blue reflecting off the palm fronds there. It just looks absolutely stunning on the Pixel 4a at night. This was a poor attempt at a panorama shot here. As you can see, it just looks terrible on the Pixel 4a. I wouldn't even use that for anything. And on the iPhone SE 2020, it's just so dark and just dim, and there's not even, the pool is lit up blue on the Pixel 4a. It's like dark emerald green. That's even a compliment on the iPhone SE 2020. I will say this, the iPhone SE 2020 does look like a higher fidelity photo, but both are pretty much useless in, terms of panorama shots. Let's go ahead and look at this video here. This video in particular, before I begin, I wanted to point out the in-body image stabilization here. As you can see, I think the iPhone does a great job at stabilizing images. It's almost as if panning around, you had this thing on a tripod, even though you don't. But panning around is just as well done, if not better, on the Pixel 4a. So kudos to Google for having, just as good in-body image stabilization as the iPhone SE 2020, which is known for its superior video capabilities. Here is just another photo from a upper deck. I think it just looks so color accurate on the iPhone SE 2020 and sharp and clean. It just looks more vibrant and inviting and colorful on the Pixel 4a. I think these darker sort of areas of the photo sort of keep things out of the photo that you don't want in the photo. As where on the Pixel 4a, you sort of get things that you don't want to see in the photo because of that long exposure ability. But, to each their own. And last but not least, before we finish up this photo comparison, I just want to show you this pretty cool shot of our upper deck area here out at our pool. This is a nice area where people come up and sit. And one thing that I pointed out at the beginning of the video was the Google Pixel 4a has a built-in level feature. So you can see if your photo is cockeye or not, which I really like. So you want to be taking your phone, or you want to be taking your picture at 0 degrees, which is perfectly horizontal. Not sure that this photo on the iPhone SE is perfectly horizontal, but I can assure you that it is perfectly horizontal on the Pixel 4a, which really comes in handy for real estate photography and taking pictures of the inside of your house for insurance purposes and things like that. Who knows? But the iPhone SE just does a great job of keeping the image sharp and color accurate here. But wait until I show you what night sight looks like on the Pixel 4a. Mwah! Absolutely stunning once again. Again, you could say, that the iPhone SE 2020 is just an overall different style, and it might be one that you like better, but I just so happen to think that the long exposure night mode setting on the Pixel 4a is super impressive, and the colors just pop here. The shadows just come alive, and overall, both are great cameras. Okay guys, so now that you've seen the camera comparison between the iPhone SE 2020 and the Google Pixel 4a, I am pretty sure you can make a better informed decision when making your next smartphone purchase. This phone did receive Best in Class for 2020 in this price category. The iPhone SE does a great job at taking photo, video, especially portraits. When I was taking selfie portraits, they looked absolutely phenomenal on the iPhone SE 2020. Didn't look so good on the Pixel 4a. However, when you are taking photos at night, you're definitely going to want to have this guy with you as opposed to this guy for the most part. This is going to take brighter, more colorful photos. You might like the style of the iPhone SE 2020 better than the Pixel 4a, but I think this one's going to be the more colorful photo at nighttime. The iPhone SE did a great job at selfie portraits, not so great on the Pixel 4a. The Pixel 4a has that built-in level, which makes it really easy to take perfectly level shots. With the iPhone SE, it will be a little bit harder to judge if your photo is horizontal or not, but like I said during that camera comparison, I think the post-editing software on Apple's iPhone SE is superior to that of the Pixel 4a. That mainly has to do with the fact that the filters are a little bit better on the iPhone SE. For the most part, when it comes to still photos, both cameras are going to take equivalent photos. Anyways, guys, that is going to do it for this camera comparison between the iPhone SE 2020 and the Pixel 4a by Google. My name is John. I really hope you enjoyed that camera comparison. If you want to see more videos like this, hit that like button, subscribe. Once again, thank you so much for tuning in. I will see you in the next one.